So thanks for coming today. I'm Joe Dufresne, as you know, Council President. And a few months ago, we gathered to talk about this new idea for governance that we've called vision-focused ministry. And so since that time, that was mid-September, the Executive Plus Committee that was pulled together and looked at this has been working on defining that plan and also coming up with a transition plan. So we're going to talk through that. So this is the agenda. In theory, Pastor Cindy will give a reflection. I say in theory because I can't see her right now. So we may jump past that to start. And then I'll review at a fairly high level, fairly quickly, the content that I went through in September around what we're talking about when we're saying vision focused ministry. So I'll do that review pretty quickly. There's that presentation, as you may know, is a link on the website, the ILC website, as well, and it links to a YouTube video, so it has some YouTube star now, which is really gratifying. But you can, if you want that detail, that's still out there. Then we'll go through how the model's changed. The short answer is not much from what you saw in September. And then the transition plan, and that's going to be really the most of the new content. I've got QA listed at the end, but really if there's questions throughout, please raise your hand and let's have those conversations as we go. Really easier. So we'll jump back to reflection in a little bit. I'll start talking more about kind of what we're doing and why. So some of these look again a little familiar. So why change? Well, we think now's a good time because we're healthy right now. And I want to make one comment speaking of change. Some of you may have heard that David Simonson, who was elected last January as Vice President, due to some personal reasons, actually resigned that position a few weeks ago. And so Executive Committee met and asked Kelly Wells to step into that role. We really looked for someone who had some experience, given the timing, and Kelly graciously agreed, and the council voted last week to approve that. So speaking of change, right, that was an unforeseen change, but we're really excited to have Kelly on board. And so, as I mentioned, the world is changing. The organization we have right now to govern the church was how businesses functioned in the 1920s, and we're almost to 2020, so it makes sense to kind of revisit and refresh that. And the model we have today is a bit inefficient. We have experts that know their areas very well, and we kind of force them to come through council many times to get things approved, and we just think that's an inefficient way to do it. And the other piece is we're not really focused on the long-term vision very often. We don't talk about it all that much at council meetings. We talk about what happened last month. We talk about what's happening next month a lot. We don't often spend time on this long-range vision. So we want to do that. And so that's why we think now is a good time. We're a very healthy congregation. As you probably know, we had a really successful stewardship campaign this year. And the financial picture you'll hear next week at this hour. This is much rosier than what we heard and have been saying for the last couple of years. So that's good news, in a short run healthy congregation. I think now I'll jump back. So if you want to give a little reflection before we continue.
So I'll just apologize right here. Joe asked me to start us off, and I was late. I think, I don't know what Joe has already said to you. Was that your first slide?
Yeah, change.
Okay, that's pretty much what I was going to say in my reflection. Just the thought that Emmanuel is incredibly, I want to say spirit-filled. There are people here that are skilled, that are dedicated, that are really wanting to do God's work in this place. And I don't want making sure the bulletins run off for Sunday to get in the way of us coming together to make changes in people's lives. I think that our goal in the next few years will be to say, how are we changing lives? How are we helping people know Christ and live a Christian life, as well as how are we healing the world? How are we helping the world be a better place? I've said to many people that this year we had this incredible uptick of people at the early service for Christmas Eve. We kind of didn't know what to do with them. They were irrelevant. But my sense in talking to other pastors is that people are looking for goodness. They're looking for something good in this world. And I think that we can show people where to find it. But not if we're spending all of our energy trying to make sure the bulletins are run off for a Sunday, or making sure that we have coffee hour, or those kinds of things that need to get done, but aren't long-range, larger thinking of where is Christ calling us. So that's my goal in all of this, that we start asking God, what do you want us to do, and send us there.
So what does vision focus mean? What are we talking about? Just need to touch on this a bit. It's what it's not is putting a group of people in an ivory tower to figure out what the vision is and coming down and telling everybody that. That is not what it is. There we go. It is really engaging with the congregation and the community to figure out what should we be doing. What are we trying to do? It's keeping in touch with ministry outcomes is what we're doing working. What could be done differently? And it's thinking about these big questions, right? How are we changing lives? What are we doing outside the walls? How can we serve different communities better? And so we've summarized this as what difference will we make and for whom? And focusing on that. We want, that's what we mean when we say vision focus. So a brief trip down memory lane. This is the journey we've been on over the last really year or more. In February, we went on a retreat with the council and talked about this at length at that retreat. And at the end of that, we formed kind of two groups. One is Exec Plus, so that's the executive committee plus the at-large members of the council. That's the group that's been visiting this. And we also asked the committee chairs to get together and put together charters that would more clearly define what they do. Because that was one of the things that came up was there's not a lot of clarity for some of them based on what they were actually supposed to be doing. So those are the two efforts that we did. Again, in September, I came and presented the idea. And since then, we've been working on how we're going to make this idea a reality. We spent October and part of November visiting with many different groups throughout the congregation to try to get people's feedback on this. And by and large, people seemed pretty okay with it. There were some questions around how will this work, how will we make sure we communicate, things like that. But no one really raised any show-stopping concerns. There were a few questions again that we felt that it was a great conversation. For me, it was very useful to see that yes, this is something that can work. And so now we'll talk about the model. So this will look familiar, but in September it was draft. Now it's proposed. So hey, it changed, right? And the model actually hasn't changed very much. So I'll go through a little bit of what that is. We're basically going to split things into two groups, a governance group and a ministry group. So governance would be formed by a visioning board that will be responsible for the mission, for setting policy, for delegating the daily operations to the ministry side, and for oversight of all of it. So that's the plan. And mission is the big focus. That's the goal, at least. And so that's what difference will we make from home. That's what we want this group to focus on, like I mentioned. Any questions so far? A lot of this is review, I imagine. In ministry, we will delegate, the board will delegate to the pastor the day-to-day church operations. And she will get to use staff and volunteers to make that happen. What we call council committees today, by and large, will become ministry teams and report up through the ministry function. So they won't have a role in the governance of church, and that's by design. The idea is that if we take the people that are doing that day-to-day stuff, we align them with ministry, then we can have the board focus on this more long-range stuff. They're not thinking in the back of their mind, I've got to worry about Sunday school, I've got to worry about does the building get heat, or those types of things. So that's the goal. And in short, what they'll focus on, building community, managing resources, transforming lives. That'll be their focus. Where the rubber meets the road, right? So, as I talked about in September, we read a book, we did a kind of a book review type thing, or a book club, with a book called Governance and Ministry by Dan Hotchkiss. And he has a diagram in there that I thought was really useful to kind of describe how we're doing what we do. So, and you'll notice that there's kind of two little mountains, if you will. One side is governance, one side is industry, and there's overlap. That's really by design. We're not trying to separate these two functions and have them never communicate as well. That won't make sense for us. There'll be crosstalk, there'll be communication back and forth. But the board will focus on, pardon me, the board will focus on setting policies so that the ministry team knows what the board expects and what the church expects. And this will be more like guidelines, kind of what the outcomes we're expecting and what not to do, to give them some freedom to figure out how to meet those outcomes that we're designing. And there'll be accountability back from the staff to the board. The board has oversight responsibility and will do that. Committees, as we think of them today, most of them become teams, but the board will have committees to do its work. There's one exception to the committees becoming teams, and that is finance. The finance committee will remain a committee and be under the board. But all the other things we think of as committees today, by and large, that are voted on at the annual meeting, will become ministry teams. So I think this is kind of a good summary of how things are going. Conceptual. Any questions on this? Okay. So more things you've seen on a bigger screen and easier to read, so that's kind of nice. New screen. This is how things are today. Where we have the pastor and staff kind of off to the side, not really part of the governance structure directly. This is where things are today, and this is where we plan to move. And this would look pretty familiar, not a lot of changes from September, but it really puts the pastor and staff kind of more in charge of the ministry. And by the way, we're kind of functioning this way anyway, and behind the scenes. Most things run through Pastor Cindy. She's very aware of what's going on. This is really formalizing a lot of that. Any questions? So what will the visioning board do? I'm going to repeat myself again. How are we changing lives? What are we doing at home? All right? We're going to focus on that. That's the goal. And oversight. Making sure that the ministry is functioning as designed and performing as it's supposed to. The board will be 7 voting members, president, vice president, or past president. We'll talk about that in a second. Treasurer, secretary, and 3 at-large members. The pastor will be on the board as a non-voting member. This is exactly how we had it laid out. So one of the things we talked about last time was we want the president to have more than 1 year in term because you spend a lot of time learning the role and then you're done. And Pastor Cindy gets to train the president every year. So we've come up with a mechanism to have a 2-year presidency. We were concerned about if we just did 2 years vice president, 2 years president, 2 years vice president, now we're asking people to commit to 6 years. That's a lot. We didn't want to do that. So we broke it down to say in each year we'll either have a vice president or a past president. And that role will largely be the same year to year. So if the president can't perform their duties, the vice president or past president will fill in as needed. The advantage then is the past president will have already been there, done that. He'll be able to help mentor the new president. And conversely, when we have a vice president, the president will be 3 years in and can help train that new person in. That's the idea. And they'll have 2 years of mentorship, really. So we think this is a way to do that without requiring in 6 years, which seems excessive. We're also planning that the board members will have 3-year terms. And one of the things we came up with is a staggered term. So an at-large member will roll off each year to help with continuity. And the treasurer and the secretary will not, their terms won't end the same year either. And that should help with continuity on the board. So that's the plan there. Now we get into the interesting part, at least the new part from what we're talking about in September, which is how are we going to get from here to there? And our goal is to spend 2019 as a transition year to get us there. So as we were figuring out how we wanted to do this, pilot this vision board, we had a few goals in mind that we wanted to do. First is we didn't want to try to change the Constitution going into this because there's still a lot of open questions. There's still things we don't know. We know that the way we have things designed now, as we try them out, we realize things don't work and we'll need to change. So we decided we didn't want to do that. But we did want the vision. We did want the vision board. I think we had under that. Is that good? That might be what happened. Well, that's fine. Everybody awake?
I turned it down a little bit.
Okay. If I just don't talk, I think it's fine. So the other thing we wanted the board to actually have that governing authority this year. In order to try it out, that's what we need to do. And we wanted to try the 2-year presidential term. I've put a lot of energy into this. We still have a long ways to go. And so the council and the executive committee asked me to stay on another year to do that. And I agreed to do that. So that was another thing we wanted to try this year. Pastor Cindy more directly, and the ability to adjust and prepare the constitutional changes that we need for 2020. So that's what we were shooting for. And then we looked at the Constitution and thought, there's some issues with that potentially, with just doing that without changing it. Notably, it's very clear in the Constitution that the council is the governing body. That is the way it's laid out. And also, the president terms are 1 year. Very clear. And we have both the past president and vice president. They're both in there as officers. We need those roles. That's what's in there. But we do have an opportunity to actually use what's in the Constitution to delegate functionality. So what we've decided to do is to have both the council and the board in 2019. The council will delegate its responsibilities to the board by and large. So that is how we're going to live within the Constitution as it's written today, but still be able to try this out. Questions? Thoughts? Comments? So how do we do that? We have a plan. In 2 weeks, you'll be asked at the annual meeting to approve a resolution, essentially allowing the president to make this delegation, the president and council. We really want the congregation to weigh in, have a say in this, and approve this action. Don't want the council to just run off and do this without congressional oversight and approval. So we'll come and ask for that in 2 weeks. Once that happens, then the president will establish the board and appoint board members. And I'll show you who those, how we're designing that, this interim board to operate in a moment. Then the council will approve that, hopefully, but they still retain ultimate authority. The council is still responsible as the governing body of the church according to the Constitution. And they'll still meet on a quarterly basis, focused on oversight of the board and also on communication, making sure that all the groups that need to be informed are informed. So that's our plan. And then the board will delegate the ministry responsibilities to the pastor as described in the model. So that's how we feel we can live within the Constitution and still try this out. Questions?
Can there be overlap between the visiting board and the current board membership?
Yes, and that's our plan actually, that everybody on the board will be elected as a council member. That's the plan. So, the village delegate their responsibilities to the board. This is a bit of an eye chart, but this is the actual resolution that will be presented in 2 weeks. And it's basically what I just told you. So some interesting parts is it actually also includes exactly who will be on the board. And there's one major change to this versus what we're proposing as the ongoing model. The main difference is that there's essentially 3 leadership positions, if you will, that are on the board. You recall initially we said we'd have a president and a vice president or a past president, but this year we'll have all 3. But in a way to try to this 2-year presidency out, I will actually be the chair of the visioning board. So we'll have 8 voting members instead of 7. I don't think that'll be too much of an issue. I don't think we've had any votes that are so close that we're worried about 4-4 ties. And frankly, if we have a 4-4 tie, we should probably talk a little more anyway. That's not bad.
Question, why is the past president chairing the board and not the president?
In order for us to try out the 2-year president model.
Transition.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So,
in the future, once this instituted, the president will.
right, in the future, there won't be a past president role. Or there will be, but it'll only be every other year. There won't be the 3 leadership roles the way we have them today. We actually talked about, maybe the president won't even be on the board, but that didn't make a lot of sense to us because the president's still accountable in the Constitution. So to say, will you please be president, Kelly, but don't have anything to do with the congregation.
Yeah, it's still great.
It's not me. No, it's off. But it's in there. So. No, I need to listen to the.
Can we just move you over a little bit? Because the whole is coming.
So it's not me. That's interesting. I know, but I'm still hearing it. It's not me, is what I'm saying. It's something else. I think maybe it might be that. I don't know.
Something over here, probably, you know,
Yeah. Okay. Where were we? So yeah, I think it is a different model than what we presented, right? It's 8 members this year instead of 7. With the idea that it'll be 7 in a year. Questions? Concerns? I thought next I'd go through who the candidates are that you'll see in a couple weeks. So, and I've laid it out, and these are the council, right? But there's overlap. So on the council, essentially, all the members of the board will be on the council. Folks in red are those that have taken on, will be taking on the role. And then we also have, of course, our committee chairs. And that's that group. We've got a group on this, and it's, I'm really excited about the group that we've got coming in. So the committee chairs will be committee chairs, but they'll also be ministry team leads. And we'll work with Pastor Cindy in that function as well.
Except for finance.
Except for finance, yes, except for finance. Good. So this is just another way to view the same, basically the same information on the board. How are we feeling about this? Does it seem reasonable? Confusing? Reasonable and confusing? It is a transition year to get us where we want to be within the Constitution as it's written. So these are some of the tentative goals the Visioning Board has put together. And really, Exec Plus, in our last meeting a couple weeks ago, brainstormed this list. I say tentative for a couple reasons. One is we're adding new members, and I assume they're going to bring in new ideas, and we'll probably add goals based on them. The other reason is I'm certain that when we get to the end of the year, the list of goals will look different than it looks at the beginning of the year. This is the things we're thinking about doing. It's a building year. It's a putting the foundation in place. So a lot on policies, getting the board trained on what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it and what their roles are, how it's different than what it's been. Putting training in place so that when new board members come on, they know what they'll know what's expected of them and they'll know how to operate. And of course, the new Constitution and bylaws is a huge effort. I don't envision that the Visioning Board will do all of this on their own. We will be getting volunteers on committees to help with all of this, such as setting policies and the Constitution and things like that. So we won't be doing all of this on our own. And oh, by the way, we're also thinking about mission. Remember mission? That's kind of why we want to switch to this organization. I don't know that we'll get a lot of that this year, to be quite honest. This may be build the foundation for visioning next year. The Synod is hopefully hosting a year renewal that has a mission component, and if that occurs, we'll probably sign on to that and get a group that does the mission. But if that doesn't occur, I can't imagine us having the bandwidth to drive a mission initiative as well as all these other things. So, thoughts or questions? Yeah.
Hey, obviously my old stable company, I got a church, required frequently won't be here for the annual meeting, now, the grandchild. One thing is, I look at as somewhat of an outsider coming in, looking at it as far as a organic way. We see visioning board. The governance part of it, just by definition of the term vision, the governance part of it really doesn't stand out. So I think that the name is confusing to me. It would be, I would see the better visioning and governance board. Something, because somebody's looking at it and saying, well, what are you doing governing? You're supposed to be doing visioning. Visioning is saying, well, we're going to go out and have camps on where we're vision for the future. So I think that the term itself bothers me.
Okay, I appreciate that. We did talk a lot about this. We landed on visioning because we want that to be the focus. But there is, governance is an important piece, and maintaining that is an important piece. So I think it's good feedback. I appreciate that. We'll definitely take that back to the group and talk more about that. Yeah, and how we do governance, how we do that oversight, all of that has to be built this year. Not all of it. There's much of it is in place the way we do things today, but it all needs to be adjusted to how do we enable the ministry teams to have flexibility and still provide oversight. That's the piece that needs to change and needs to be built this year. So I appreciate that. Doug, anything else?
I just wanted to make a comment about your fourth point, drafting a new constitution and bylaws. I think we should do everything we can not to have to draft anything and change the Constitution. I think everything can be accomplished by changes in the bylaws. That if we change, when we change the bylaws, they can be approved by the congregation in a single vote at the 2020 annual meeting. If we had to change the Constitution, there'd be 2 years of voting.
Right.
And I think it can be done by the bylaws.
That's great. If we can only adjust bylaws and get to where we need to get, that sounds great to me. Yeah, I'm all for that if that works. And I think in the Constitution, if I remember, Doug, you reminded me that it's called the council in the Constitution, and that's part of the Constitution that can't be changed. So the official title will be something along congregational council, a working title perhaps would be well within the vision for it.
Actually, what the current bylaws is, we said, when we defined the council, we said that the Constitution does refer, without, it can't be changed, it's the congregational council. And we said at some point in the bylaws that this will, here, from now on, will be called the council. And so it could be said, from now on, it's going to be called vision, or whatever it is.
Sounds great.
Good call. Detail oriented.
I imagine Don will be very, very big part of that drafting of constitutional bylaws. Other questions? I think to your point, John, one of the things that definitely could change as we're practicing is what is the name of this floor? I'm not married to the name necessarily, so I appreciate that input, and I'll take that back to the group and discuss that. Any other questions? The next slide says questions. So this is what we're coming to you next in 2 weeks, but is to have that resolution hopefully approved, and then move forward with visioning for the year. We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Comment. As I'm looking at this, I'm not concerned about the direction that this is going. This visioning group, for me, feels very much like it felt for me when I got on council, because I was on council for the first time as on the executive committee. So when I got on it, I was very much into the governance and the visioning aspect of it. I know that there have been committee members that really were far more into the committee work and not so, and really didn't have any interest in the governance and the visioning part of that. So while it's hard for me to imagine why we really needed to do it, I think other people's experience does really indicate why you want to have that sort of split there. So I think it looks good.
Thank you.
Just an observation that, in the future, as we call pastors, I can imagine some pastors would be interested in this model and some would not. I remember John Marlowe would say, yeah, I do ministry, I don't do administration sort of thing. So I guess we just have to realize that we'll have probably a specialized pool of folks interested in this model.
It'll definitely have to be a part of the call process. If we've done this for a few years and this is the way we want to stay, I'm hoping that's the way it goes, it would have to be a part of the call process. And we know of another congregation where they had this in place, they called somebody who wasn't part of their process and it kind of fell apart. So if we decide this is where we want to go and this is important to us, it has to be a part of the process. And it doesn't necessarily mean we have to have someone who's done this before, but we have to be able to work with that person to get them familiar with it and able to function with it. Yeah, that's an important piece of feedback. We talked with a few different congregations that are in various stages of this policy governance style. And some that are doing it very successfully and some less so. And in some ways, it was more useful to talk to the ones where it's not working. You learn, okay, how did that happen? So that's been useful. But no, I think that's a good point. It would need to be a part of the call process. Going forward. I don't know if it would reduce candidates, but it's possible as well.
Maybe just a comment. I think we're lucky to have Pastor Cindy who brought this idea to us, and this is has skills and ability to work in this new kind of organization and help us get there. It's true, not all pastors have that perspective.
From the pastor side of this, I've said all along, this governance model really reflects what's actually happening as opposed to what is in the Constitution. For the most part, people, the committees and I have pretty close relationship, and we talk about what's going on, and the staff meets weekly and exchange, oh, well, my committee wants to do this, oh, well, my committee wants to do it the same day, let's negotiate, that kind of thing, which is what this model is. That doesn't all happen at the council level here, and hasn't. So this is a little bit more reflective of what's actually been happening. So I don't want you all to think that we're making this vast change that no pastor will ever want to come in and do. It does reflect a more contemporary way of running church. And I think that there will be a lot of pastors who are comfortable with this.
And I agree with Pastor Cindy on that. As long as the visioning board and the governance board is able to deal with a worst case scenario. Let's say for, God forbid something happens in that pastor, such as suddenly the pastor is not there for whatever reason. Is the church capable and willing and know how to handle that interim going through that? I've seen that happen in one of the congregations, which fortunately the council at that time was so strong that it was almost like nothing happened for that interim. It was amazing to see. So I would say look at the worst case scenario. Are we ready to handle it?
Yeah, and I think with the model we've got in that type of scenario, I would think the board would create a committee to help with that, a specific committee in that case. That's one of the benefits of this model, I think, is we can create that as we need to. We can appoint committees. But you're right, as governance, I don't want to shortchange governance. This is an important part of what
If not, it'll go off and then just
it's a very important project.
and you can just leave it on him. I don't want to question it, but it's getting
We know Pastor Cindy, she's obviously very complimentary to us. It's easy to say, oh, well, that stuff's just going to work, and it just works. But we can't assume that.
who you're with.
That needs to be covered, so that's a piece of it. Thanks, John. Mark?
Well, just to speak to John's risk there, I'll come up here so everybody's going to turn around. But to speak to John's risk, we're going to by those policies and the task force ministries, those leaders are going to be empowered to really take ownership of that task force ministry area. So they're going to be really strong leaders. So that should help mitigate that risk.
Yeah. That's a hopeful benefit of this model, power and those ministry teams to do the things that they need to do to accomplish whatever that goal is. Any other questions, comments? Feel free to reach out to me if other things come up. You want to talk about it, I can do that.